Hi, I'm Sam.
And I'm Max.
And this is Movies Actually, where we give you an honest review of the movies we've meddled with so mischievously over at Maybe Movies.
And before we have a look at what we're going to be talking about today, most importantly, happy Halloween to everybody at home.
Happy Halloween and happy spook season!
Which is kind of appropriate because today we are going to be talking about An American Werewolf in London. This is the 1980 horror movie. It's 1980, isn't it?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, directed by John Landis, starring Jenny Agutter, David Norton, Griffin Dunn, John Woodvine, and also including appearances by Brian Glover, Dr. the Rick Mail, Frank Oz, who else? Alan Ford, and last but not least, Kermit and Miss Piggy.
Indeed. Original appearances.
Absolutely. And you probably wouldn't have even known, although there was a meme, I think, going around about it a few years ago, the guy in the subway is the same actor who plays Bib Fortuna, Jabba's Majordomo in Return of the Jedi.
So what y'all want?
Really?
Yes.
Did not know that. Oh, that's awesome. Random fact of the day.
This is, I think most people will agree, this is the best ever werewolf movie.
I am one of those people, I don't do favourites. You know, my favourite horror movie or my favourite ghost movie or whatever, I have lists of like maybe top fives I'll do as the most limited. But when it comes to werewolf movies, the top two, American Werewolf in London and The Howling.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
I honestly thought you were going to say Dog Soldiers, but...
No. Dog Soldiers is great, but they don't include the transformation. And those two movies include the transformation, and that's why they're top tier for me.
Fair enough. No, I get that. That's a difficult one. It is a difficult one because I'd also put up there as well Silver Bullet as well.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, you know, Dog Soldier, Silver Bullet, they're all up there on my list. They're up there in the top five.
Yes.
But my top two are The Howling and An American Werewolf.
This one in particular, I mean...
Especially this one.
Yes, yeah, exactly. Because Rick Baker... All hail Rick Baker.
All hail.
Won the first ever Academy Award for makeup because of this film.
Yes, I always forget that. That was the very first award for it, wasn't it?
And
which is amazing. That Hollywood had been going for like 60 years at that point, and they hadn't done one for makeup.
Exactly. I'm trying to think. So this one I do remember watching, so it would have been early 80s, about the first time that it was on TV. I got as far as the jump scare where he sees himself in the hospital bed. I got as far as that, and Mum and Dad were like, nope. Because they saw my reaction, and it was a few years after that when I was a bit older, and it had a few more. My horror chops had improved a bit by the time I revisited it. But the first time I watched it, so I would have been maybe 12? No, not even. This is 1980. So I would have been 10.
Its first time on TV was, I think, either late 81 or 82.
Okay, so
it was on average 2 years from the cinema to the TV.
That's true. So I would have been 8.
My story is pretty much the same, except I didn't get sent to bed. I watched the whole movie. Although there were a couple of... my mum used to do a Don't Look Ethel, where she'd grab a cushion, slam it up against my face and go... Yell, "Don't look, Ethel," when something really horrible happened.
Oh my god!
And
you go up thinking
I think when
Ethel?
he got savaged, I think all the rest of them, my mum got so surprised by, she didn't actually cover my eyes, but she covered my eyes when he was being savaged by the beast, which is probably the most scary bit for a small child.
Yes,
it's so loud and so fast.
Yeah,
it's like, oh my god, my life has just ended, and it's that sudden.
Yeah, that is true. So, if you've never seen this film before, very simply, you have Jack and David, pair of American college kids, on a gap year essentially, or they've got on a gap 3 months of holiday, visiting Europe for the first time, and they are in Northern England.
For some bizarre reason.
Just to see the sights of East Proctor.
Because this is before the North was cool.
Yes. And fall foul of a horrible beastie on the moors.
Indeed, a very horrible beastie.
Yes, and that's really about all you need to know. But it is absolutely fantastic. If you ever actually heard any of the interviews with John Landis, he, to this day, is adamant this is not a comedy horror. It is normally labelled as a comedy horror, and there is comedy in it, but he was attempting to make a contemporary werewolf movie in the mould of The Wolfman and all of the old Universal Monsters movies.
Yes, he was very much, yeah. Apparently, I mean, this is one of the things, I was watching one of the extra features on there, and apparently he came up with the idea in the early 70s, I think. I can't remember what production they were on, but they were doing something in Europe, and while they were filming, they came across a funeral procession that proceeded to a crossroads to bury a corpse.
Of course, yes, yeah.
And obviously confused why this was happening, Landis and the crew asked what was happening, and they explained that this man was, I think he was a suicide.
Of course.
And they were burying him at a crossroad to ensure that he wouldn't return as the undead.
Right, that makes sense.
And that was the thing that inspired him to the idea that these legends could be real and alive in this modern world, sort of thing.
That's brilliant. That's interesting. So I'm thinking then that, oh no, maybe not. Because, again, I was watching a couple of the things on here, and certainly the interview that they did with Rick Baker. He first mentioned it to Rick Baker about the time when they were doing Schlock, which was one of his almost like college films. And he'd mentioned it to him then, and he was like, and that was only like the first thing that Rick Baker had ever done. So he had about 10 years to prepare for this, because John Landis had just kind of mentioned it.
So he had lots of time to think about how
he was going to do it and all of this kind of thing.
Okay. So I'm going to put this back up because it's slowly slinking down.
And apparently when they did sell a lot of the stuff, especially the transformation sequence, because they spent months inventing stuff as to how this was going to work, and a lot of his team was saying that it was the first time he had more than just himself and maybe an assistant on a team. And most of the people who were working with him were fans of his who had written to him.
Oh, right.
So he just said, yeah, come and help.
Oh, good Lord. No, I didn't know that.
Yeah. And apparently when you first saw it in the cinema, there were people standing in the aisles cheering at how good the transformation scene is.
It is amazing.
It is amazing. It is absolutely amazing. Yes, sorry, we are going to gush a bit because this is a fantastic movie and a perfect one for Halloween.
It's so amazing that even now, with the mass CGI produced world we live in, werewolf transformations tend to look an awful lot like Rick Baker transformations.
Yeah, I mean, even
though they're done on a CGI.
Oh yeah, no,
it's the model.
It is the model, definitely. Yeah. Everything that came after it was all from this. I mean, just some of the other stuff about it. All of the stuff in Piccadilly at the end of the film.
Yes.
They had 2 nights to film. They filmed them back to back, and they could only film between 2 a.m. and 4 a.m.
Whoa!
They did that whole thing in 4 hours.
Whoa! Whoa! Having been on a couple of very small film sets, that's incredible.
Yeah. So setting up and shooting in Piccadilly Circus in 2 hours.
Oh. They must have had teams of people ready, waiting to just swoop in.
Yeah.
Set up the lights, smack the cameras in place and go, bang, right, done, move.
Done. Next shot, yeah. You know, there's a bit where the car goes up onto the curb and hits the guy and he flies back into the shop window?
Mm.
That's John Landis.
Is it really?
Because apparently he used to be a stuntman.
I didn't know that.
I didn't know that, yeah.
No,
but yeah,
I
so
didn't
the guy
know
with the
that.
bandana, that was him. Yeah, so it's just like, it is one of those seminal movies. I mean, certainly for us, obviously, from growing up in the 80s, everyone talked about American Werewolf in London. And thankfully, a lot of people still do, and they should do, because it is one of the best horror films ever.
Exactly, and it's all done in camera.
Mm-hmm.
There are no, this is long before CGI. There are no tricks or sleight of hand here. There are actual effects being done in front of the camera in real time.
Apparently there was a lot of, I wouldn't say arguments, but there were debates, because I think a number of people, including Rick Baker, were, when he got asked to do this, were thinking they're going to get to do the Wolfman. And again, it was John Landis who was adamant he wanted him to be, for those of you in the know, he wanted him to be Lupus, not Krynos.
Of course. Right. Well, I can see why he would be excited to do that, because that is a classic, iconic, seminal transformation. It's the original seminal transformation when it comes to these things. Mm-hmm. So his enthusiasm to get involved, I can see that.
Yeah.
If I was a special effects guy, do you want to recreate that? Yeah, I'll recreate that. Yeah, hell yeah.
But yeah, definitely, if you are short of anything to do this Halloween, and you've not seen that many werewolf movies already this month, then do definitely watch this one. I can't recommend it enough. I'm sure you're the same.
It's worth your time for the effects, the cinematography, the story, the soundtrack. It's all worth your time. At least once. Absolutely. Just once in your life. Treat yourself.
The comedy is great in it as well. And again, it's not forced. It complements the more dramatic elements and tones of the film.
Yeah.
It's a classic love story, as all good horror stories, films, good pseudo-gothic horror stories should be. It's got everything going for it by a master of 80s cinema.
So check it out, folks. It's definitely worth your time.
I don't know about you, but of course it gets both the thumbs up.
All of the thumbs up. If I had more thumbs, I would give it more thumbs.
Yes. And I'm also reasonably sure, in fact, I'm 100% adamant that you are nothing but a hallucination caused by alcohol. Some Russian vodka that's been poisoned by Chernobyl.
Okay then.
Anyway, whatever you're doing this Halloween, make sure you have a good one, make sure you stay safe, and we will see you next time.
As always, guys, TTFN.
Let's dance!